With the win over the Jets, the Buffalo Bills clinch the number 2 seed and break a bunch of records along the way. My reaction to the Bills win over the Jets is coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Victory Monday to you. The Buffalo Bills defeated the New York Jets 40-14, improved to 13-3 on the season, and officially clinched the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. Really fun game, especially as it moved along. The Bills started to really pour it on with touchdowns and takeaways and sacks. You got tons of splash plays on defense. Josh Allen did special Josh Allen things, and it was a type of win that this team really needed. A very convincing game where they played terrific complementary football in all 3 phases and got a statement win and puts them in position to really treat Week 18 like it's a bye. The Bills can be no lower than the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. They will be the 2 seed. So next week's game in New England is inconsequential. Obviously, want to get through it healthy and all that, but the Bills can really rest up, if you will, this coming week and position them to be as healthy as possible going into the postseason. You may have noticed if you're on YouTube, I have my Happy Victory Monday to You shirt on. Get yourself one, herdmentalityshop.com. Herdmentalityshop.com. There's a link in today's show notes as well. That'll take you right to it. All right, let's do the typical game reaction podcast. We'll do things I liked, things I didn't like, talk about what's next, and, of course, my predictions from the game. We'll start with things I liked on offense. And I think what it really comes down to offensively is that they just made plays. They just made plays. They were behind the sticks quite a bit, but they figured it out and scored a bunch of points. Headlined by 3 Josh Allen touchdowns. And the theme here being that the Bills made plays. Look at this opening drive. It was capped by a Josh Allen 1-yard rushing touchdown. But that was set up due to some very nice chunk gains. 12 yards to Khalil Shakir on 3rd and 5. Mac Hollins 23 yards on 3rd and 13. Hollins again 10 yards on a 2nd and 7. 11-yard gain to Dalton Kincaid. Eventually you get to that touchdown plunge from Josh Allen to take the early lead, and the Bills won the opening kick. They chose to receive, which is an uncharacteristic choice. And if you're going to take the ball first, you better go score a touchdown. That's exactly what they did. 12 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown. That touchdown that Josh Allen scored was the 65th rushing touchdown of his career, which ties him with Thurman Thomas for the most rushing touchdowns in franchise history. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Thurman Thomas, but he's a running back. A Hall of Fame running back. Josh Allen has the same amount of rushing touchdowns as Thurman Thomas. Unbelievable. The next Josh Allen touchdown, the Amari Cooper 30-yard touchdown reception from Josh Allen, a 2nd and 14 play. And Josh just put it up there on him. And it was a contested situation, and Amari Cooper is one of the best 10 contested catch receivers in the NFL, and he went up and made a play. I mean, the ball just sticks to his hands in those situations. He's so good in contested situations. This is Josh Allen's first touchdown pass of the season that traveled more than 20 air yards, which is just crazy. All the other quarterbacks in the league have like 2. All of them that have like 50 deep attempts had at least 5, and Josh Allen just got his first one. It's just an insane, crazy outlier stat for Josh Allen, but he finally gets one. And it's courtesy of Amari Cooper going up and making a play. And I listened to Josh Allen after the game, and he said something that I thought was important, because some of the deep stuff has been very erratic for him this year, and there's a number of reasons for that. But he said, look, I've really tried to lead these receivers and make these perfect throws to them that they can kind of catch it in stride and continue running when they're going deep. He said, especially with Cooper and Coleman, I don't necessarily need to make a perfect throw. I just need to give them a chance. And you saw that right in this game. Of course, the touchdown to Cooper, but Keon Coleman also had that really nice catch down the right sideline that was negated due to a holding call on Spencer Brown that I 100,000,000% disagreed with. But it was a good example of what Josh is talking about. Like, your margin for error with those guys when you throw it and you try to hit them in stride is pretty small. But those are big-bodied physical receivers that can go up and catch a football. Give them a chance to do it. You want to underthrow those guys more than you want to overthrow them. And so I thought that was good commentary from Josh. So that was the 65th. Excuse me, I talked about that one already. That touchdown to Amari Cooper marked Josh Allen's 40th of the season, making him the first player in NFL history with 5 consecutive 40-plus touchdown seasons. Incredible. Incredible. 5 in a row, 40 touchdowns. Josh Allen, our quarterback. Also, shout out to Amari Cooper. 3 catches, 56 yards on 3 targets, went over 10,000 receiving yards for his career. Only 57 players in the history of the NFL can say they've tallied a 10,000 receiving yards. Amari Cooper is one of them. Your third Josh Allen touchdown was a 14-yard completion to Keon Coleman on 3rd and 9. And it was one of those Josh Allen plays, and you know what I'm talking about, where it's, all right, he's rolling right. Okay, I feel pretty good. I like when Josh Allen gets to his right. But then the longer he holds the ball and the closer he gets to the sideline, you probably find yourself saying, no, 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 as he starts to open up and look back across the field. And then he lays one out over the middle of the field, and it's no, 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 no. Yes, yes, Keon Coleman comes away with a touchdown reception. Thank you, God. This is a big-time play. Obviously, quite the highlight. Not a process you want to replicate and do very often, but that one worked out. 17-0 equals 6 points. And I thought Keon needed that play. Felt like, he certainly made a good play on that vertical route that got called back, but Josh had an extended play that hit Keon Coleman. It would have been a tough catch, but certainly one that I think that even Keon would expect to make. Then there was that tip pass that he wasn't able to haul in. It hit his hands, but I understand how that can be difficult, kind of right on you with the ball changing directions. But just kind of feels like since the injury, coming back from the injury, the momentum, right, there was this really good rapport and chemistry that was being built with Josh Allen. It felt like some of that got away since the injury return. Now, there's been moments, of course, the big completion down the field against Detroit. He's kind of had like one big play per game, but he was on this streak of really stacking up big plays in games, and it was nice to see him get that catch, because I think he, like I said, just kind of needed it. It's been a bit of a more quiet stretch for Keon since coming back from injury when he had so much momentum. So it was cool to see him make that play. Then, of course, you get a James Cook rushing touchdown, the 15th rushing touchdown of the season for him, which ties Josh Allen's record for the second most rushing touchdowns in a single season by a Bill. So just a really fun statistic there. And I think James Cook's total touchdowns this year is pretty impressive. If I'm not mistaken, maybe 17, maybe more. Having a heck of a year in terms of touchdown production. And how about Tyrell Shavers? Practice squad call-up, a hot name during the offseason throughout minicamp and training camp. He winds up not making the roster, but still is elevated off the practice squad several times this year and gets a chance to make his first career catch, hauls it in, and turns into a 69-yard catch and run for a touchdown. His first career catch, his first career touchdown, coming with Mitch Trubisky in at quarterback late in the game. So offensively, you come away with 40 points, 23 first downs. You're 8 of 14 on third down, 3 for 3 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. You didn't turn it over. It didn't get sacked. And your starters really only played 3 quarters of the game. Fun day offensively. And the Bills in this game scored their 61st touchdown of the season. That's the most ever. for the Buffalo Bills in a season. They also scored 502 points, which is now the most ever for the Buffalo Bills in a season. So a banner year for this Buffalo Bills offense through week 17. All right, on the other side of it, we're going to talk defense, things I liked there. Folks, be sure to stick with me. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about that you were paying for twice? That's happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's talk defense and things that I liked defensively for the Buffalo Bills. And I guess what it really comes down to on that side of the ball is that you got more big plays on defense. It just kept on getting big plays on defense. Certainly leaky at times, giving up yards, but you just kept getting huge situational wins. And then once you have the lead and the Jets are one-dimensional, things get ugly. Just looking at these drives. Look at these drives. You start the game, and on your first defensive series, winds up being a turnover on downs for the Jets, a 4th-and-1 stop. Then you get an interception. Greg Rousseau deflects the pass, goes up in the air, and Jordan Phillips picks it off. Crazy, right? And I think Jordan Phillips made a good choice to just go down with that thing. But Greg Rousseau tipping that ball up there. Then your next drive is a safety. Sam Martin hits a boomer of a punt, and then they have a false start, and A.J. Epinesa dusts Max Mitchell, their left tackle, for a sack that winds up being a safety. I don't think Max Mitchell knew the direction that he was supposed to slide in pass pro, and Epinesa blew right by him. That was literally the Jets had the ball 3 times in the first half. That's the results of their drives. Turnover on downs, an interception, and a safety. So then they get the ball first to start the second half. 6 plays and a punt. Then it's an interception. Christian Benford picks off Aaron Rodgers after he maybe should have picked him off the drive before. Then you get 3 and out, where the Jets have -4 plays on the 3 and out. They punt. Then they fumble. Ed Oliver forces a fumble. Matt Milano recovers it. Then another 3 and out where they get -4 yards and punt. And that's it for Aaron Rodgers. God, I hope he doesn't retire. I hope he comes back one more year for the Jets, baby. Come on. Run it back. And then Tyrod Taylor comes in and leads 2 scoring drives against the Bills' backups and throwing at Brandon Codrington, the Bills' freaking punt returner, over and over again. So just another game where the Bills win situational moments defensively. Were they leaky? Yeah. Did they give up some yards? They sure did. Were at times where it felt like the yardage was easy for the Jets to get? Yeah, absolutely. But in situational high leverage moments, the Bills defense came away with monumental plays. Huge game-changing splash plays. And this is kind of what the Bills are. And I'm nervous about that script for sure. I have a lot of concern about that script. But it's worked a lot for them this year, where they're just not a very stout defense. You can have yards, but at some point, you're going to make a mistake, and the Bills are going to take advantage of it. 4 sacks in the game. Epinesa, Oliver, Rousseau, and Jones split one. Von Miller gets a sack. Ed Oliver to go with his sack, 3 tackles for loss. Epinesa has 2 tackles for loss to go with his sacks. So 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, a safety, and a fumble recovery. That's a lot of defensive production. Some other thoughts here on the defense. Matt Milano returned for this game, and he was the starter alongside Terrell Bernard. They did have some situational 3 linebacker stuff where you saw Dorian Williams on the field, but Milano was back healthy and played alongside Bernard. I think you saw the variance of Matt Milano look pretty slow on that kind of that flat pass to Devontae Adams where he had a good jump on the play. He just looked really slow trying to get over there. Then you get Taylor Rapp back this week. Cam Lewis was ready to go as well. He wound up being the dime player. It was interesting. Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp started alongside each other at safety, and that's potentially a preview for next year as to what the Bills safety tandem can be. I kind of expect it to be that. So interesting. Again, I think that Cam Lewis was back and Bishop started at safety, but I think it really came down to Cam Lewis as that dime back, and they want that role to be available. And so you put Bishop as the every down safety. Plus, he's kind of had some good momentum here. Thought the last few games that Bishop's had a chance to play, I thought he's showed some good growth, and the Bills just kind of sticking with it. I thought it was interesting that Austin Johnson was inactive for this game. I don't think Austin Johnson's been great this season. I think he's been a reasonable rotational defensive tackle. But clearly they're tinkering with some stuff here. Obviously, Dwayne Carter sat last week. Austin Johnson this week. Jefferson sat a game. Phillips has sat a game. I think they're trying to figure out what's the best 5. And Sean McDermott kind of alluded to that this week, is they're trying to figure out what their best 5 defensive tackles are. You know, Oliver and Jones are 2 of them, and then it's a matter of between Johnson, Carter, Jefferson, and Phillips, which 3 guys you want to roll with if everyone's healthy. And if you notice, that's been the trend, is one of those guys has been inactive every week for the last 4 weeks, and hopefully they have the clarity that they need on who to play. I think the Bills' best 3 backups are Phillips, Jefferson, and Johnson, and Carter would be the inactive player for me. But we'll see how they treat that come playoff time. It's also interesting, Kyer Elam inactive for this game. And it's really straightforward. I get a lot of questions on the text line about Kyer Elam whenever this happens, and I've explained it before, but Kyer Elam doesn't play special teams. So if you're the 3rd corner and you don't play special teams and you're not starting, you're inactive. So for Kyer Elam, he's either active and starting at cornerback, or he's inactive. Because when Douglas and Benford are healthy, Elam's not going to play. And he doesn't help on special teams. And that makes Ingram, in that situation, when your starters are good to go at corner, makes him the more valuable player on game day because of his versatility on the defense, in addition to that he actually plays and helps on special teams. So it's not another, what did Kyer Elam do wrong? It's the same thing that's always been true. He doesn't help on special teams, so if he's not starting, he doesn't play. And that's just how it is with Kyer Elam, and that's the reality. If you're a depth player, you have to play special teams at positions like corner and linebacker and safety and receiver, et cetera, tight end, running back, that type of thing. All right, coming up on the other side of it, I want to get into a little special teams conversation, tell you what I didn't like from this game, talk about what's next, and, of course, recap my predictions for you. And be sure to stick with us. All right, let's get into things that I liked special teams wise. And I think it's worth pointing out that this was a pretty windy game. Weather reports said, between 15 and 25, 30 mile an hour winds throughout. It looks like from the broadcast, they show the flags are blowing. There were times where the goalposts were moving. And I think that's notable because I think that impacts special teams a lot. And I think through that, the Bills had a good day on special teams. Tyler Bass, perfect, 5 for 5 on extra points. He drilled that field goal from 39 yards, and that was a situation where the goalposts were moving while he was kicking that ball. It was a pretty pure kick, and I thought all 6 of his kicks, extra points and the 1 field goal were pure. I thought you got 3 quality punts from Sam Martin, including the one that set up a safety. You had a 45-yard kick return from Ty Johnson, 25-yard punt return from Brandon Codrington. It was good. It was a good day for the Bills special teams, and that feels good to say that. Let's get into some things that I didn't like, and obviously there's not much to get into. The Bills won 40-14. But I will say that there's some things to clean up. Offensively, they put themselves behind the sticks with some penalties, made for some productive but harder than they had to be drives. You know what I'm talking about. Offense just had some tougher situations. Now, that improved as the game moved along. It felt like a lot of those penalties were stacking up early, and that it improved. But again, they really made some things harder than they had to be with some penalties. I didn't like that Keon Coleman couldn't haul in that insane throw from Josh Allen along the sideline. That was insane. I mean, that would have been – I mean, it still is one of the best throws I've ever seen from Josh Allen, but it's not as cool if you don't catch the ball. I'm being nitpicky here, but the Bills couldn't break a long run. They wind up running the ball 34 times for 97 yards. The longest run for the Bills was 10 yards from Josh Allen. Cook and Johnson, their longest runs were 8 yards. And usually the Bills will have some explosive runs, and they just couldn't kind of get into that third level of the defense with much consistency. And I thought they would run the ball a little bit better against the Jets. It was situationally pretty sound. I mean, when the game was kind of more of an even script, if you will, I thought the Bills ran the ball effectively, but kind of missing an explosive run or two that would make that, okay, 34 for 97. Instead, it's 34 for 130 or 34 for 150. If you can, turn one of those 8-yard runs into a 25-yard run, more than one time. Defensively, the big plays are awesome. I love them. The splash plays. I get excited about sacks and interceptions just like I do touchdowns. But you didn't see a very firm defense, right? I mean, at the half, the Jets were moving the ball. They averaged 6 yards per play in the first half. They had 7 first downs, but they only faced 1 third down. They were moving the ball pretty much how they wanted to. Just the Bills won those situational moments. That was the difference. And obviously, I mean, it kept on happening, and there's no rule saying that it can't happen, but I do worry about that script. I mean, it's a great script when it works, but when it doesn't, it's ugly. And the Jets are a bad football team. They're poorly coached. Aaron Rodgers is no good. They don't have the same firmness to their defense. They don't take away the ball. They don't really have a pass rush. So, yeah, very convincing, dominant win. And defensively, there's a good story to tell about, I went through the drive chart and the results are awesome. But there was some really easy yardage out there for the Jets. And I think we're all kind of tired of seeing easy yardage and low resistance. And I just want this defense to be a little bit more firm and a little bit more tight. I feel better about it, but I'm sure I'm not the only member of Bills Mafia that's pretty worried about the defense and it being a limiting factor for this team's upside in the playoffs. What's next for the Bills is a road date with the New England Patriots in Week 18. As we've discussed, the Bills are locked into the 2 seed, which is a big deal. That means that they have at least 2 home playoff games. And as I've discussed multiple times, the Bills under Sean McDermott are 0-4 on the road in the playoffs. They're 5-2 at home. All time in the history of the Bills, they're 15-7 at home, 4-14 on the road. You want home playoff games if you are the Buffalo Bills. And now the Bills are guaranteed. The only place they're going to have to go is Arrowhead. That's the only place they're going to have to go. And the Bills just finished an 8-0 home season. Undefeated at home. 3rd time in franchise history that's happened. So this home field advantage is a big deal. And the Bills are the 2 seed, so they're going to play the 7. If Denver beats Kansas City next week, and again, Denver has to win to clinch that spot, and Kansas City's already the 1 seed, they're going to rest players. If Denver can beat Kansas City's backups, the Broncos are coming to Highmark Stadium in the wild card round of the playoffs with a great defense and a rookie quarterback. We'll talk about that game if and when it happens. Obviously, there's a path for the Bengals to get in. I'm recording this during Dolphins and Browns, but if the Dolphins win, there's a path for them to get in. So the Bills in the opening round of the playoffs will either play Denver, Cincinnati, or Miami. If Miami loses, then that's not going to be the case for them. I don't know the result of that as I'm recording this right now during that game. I think it's 6-3 at halftime. For the Patriots next week, they get the number 1 pick in the draft if they lose. We'll see how that goes. I mean, year 1 with Gerard Mayo, Drake May is the quarterback. I'm sure they're going to want to come and beat the Bills, right, and end their season on a high note. But the consequence of winning is that they probably won't have the number 1 pick. So the Bills have literally nothing to play for. And if the Patriots win, they're not going to have the number 1 pick. I mean, it's a really weird situation. And I'm sure, obviously there's a benefit to having the number 1 pick, but they're going to go out and try to win the game. Going to be fascinating. Looking at my predictions real quick. My first prediction was that Josh Allen would have 3 touchdowns. That happened. He had 3. My second prediction was that a defensive end, not named Greg Rousseau, would get a sack. That happened. AJ Epinesa and Von Miller got in on the party. That's Von's first sack since week 11 against Kansas City. That's AJ's first sack since week 10 against the Colts. I predicted 72 yards from James Cook. That would put him at 1,000 for the season. Didn't happen. He had 53 rushing yards. So he's, 19 yards short of 1,000 rushing yards on the season. We'll see what type of opportunities he gets next week against the Patriots. I predicted that the Bills would hold the Jets to 20 points or less. That happened, only 14. And I predicted the Bills win. So I go 4 out of 5. I get 3 touchdowns from Josh. I get a defensive end sack from not Rousseau. I did not get the yards from Cook. 20 points or less, and the Bills win. So 4 out of 5. Let me tell you about this week on Locked On Bills. Here's what we have planned. Of course, this is the Game Reaction Podcast. Then I'll spend all day Monday in the tape. You'll get the All 22 Review podcast later on Monday. And if you're part of our subtext or our Substack, there's a link in today's show notes to join. You will also get at least a half an hour of me breaking down film clips from the game. If you're on subtext, I'll send it right to your cell phone with a text message. If you're on Substack, I'll send it right to your email. You get that file. So if you want that, join either subtext or Substack. Then we're going to have Herd Mentality. Then we're going to have Crossover Thursday. Then for our Friday episode, I don't feel very inspired to do a full primer on the game when, the Bill. It's a meaningless game for the Bills. The only thing that's important is that they get out of it healthy and that Josh Allen starts the game so that his consecutive start streak continues. Other than that, don't care what happens. Just try to get out of that thing as healthy as possible. So what I want to do is I want to bring on Anthony Prohaska of Cover One of my favorite people to speak with. On Friday, you're going to get an episode from both of us talking about this Bills defense and all the dynamics within it entering the postseason. Don't miss that on Friday. Then we'll do our typical Saturday podcast, which will have final thoughts, the interview with Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about injuries, and then my predictions for the game. But I'll probably dump a lot of maybe some things that I might normally say in the primer into that. So a lot to get to this week. A little bit different lineup just based on the dynamics of the Bills. But obviously still 6 episodes that you will always get from me during the season. All right, folks, that's it. Enjoy your Victory Monday. The Bills are the 2 seed. They're 13-3. They smoked the Jets 40-14. Aaron Rodgers looked terrible. He throws 2 picks. He becomes the most sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL. And the only thing we can hope and pray for is for one more year in New Jersey. Enjoy your Victory Monday. Go Bills, folks. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again on the All 22 Review.